Creator Dan Curtis claimed he had a dream in 1965 of a mysterious young woman on a train. The following day, Curtis told his wife of the dream and pitched the idea as a TV series to ABC.
Well, Dark Shadows, that sounds pretty good to me. Why not? We'll call it. And then somebody said, well, shadows are always dark. I said, not necessarily. There are light shadows as well.
Network officials greenlit the production, and Curtis began hiring and starting work on his new show. Dan Curtis, born in Bridgeport, Connecticut, August 12, 1927 to March 27, 2006, was an American director, writer, and producer of television and film, known among fans of horror films for his afternoon TV series Dark Shadows, and TV films such as Trilogy of Terror. Dark Shadows originally aired from 1966 to 1971 and has aired in syndication for nearly 40 years. Curtis was responsible for the 1991 remake of Dark Shadows, which was canceled because of low ratings due to station preemptions concerning the Gulf War. His series of gruesome films include, but are not limited to, The Night Stalker.
Each man in the field is issued one of these, and one of these.
Are you suggesting that we pound one of these into Skorzeny's chest?
Trilogy of Terror, and Curse of the Black Widow. Dark Shadows, later referred to as Dark Shadows the Revival, is an American primetime gothic soap opera. It's a television series which aired on NBC from January 13th to March 22nd in 1991. A reimagining of the 1966 to 71 ABC daytime gothic soap opera, Dark Shadows the Revival, was developed by Dan Curtis, creator of the original series. The show depicted the lives, loves, trials, and tribulations of the wealthy Collins family of Collinsport, Maine, where a number of supernatural occurrences take place. Having declined several previous times about reviving Dark Shadows, Curtis was contacted by NBC's head of programming, Brandon Tartikoff, in the summer of 1987. Curtis was eventually persuaded by Tartikoff, who wouldn't let up, according to Curtis. He co-wrote and directed the first 5 episodes. He said in regards, "To get it off in the style I wanted, the essential characters and relationships are the same, but the things they do are different. I thought I could rely on those old scripts, but I found they were full of crazy plots that we couldn't use. So all the incidences are different. We arrive at similar points, but through a much different route." In 1991, Dark Shadows tells a streamlined version of the original. Victoria Winters arrives at Collinwood. The vampire, Barnabas Collins, is released from his coffin. Dr. Hoffman attempts to cure Barnabas of his vampirism, and Victoria time travels back to 1790, witnessing the events before Barnabas is transformed into a creature of the night. Harry Bernard Cross, born 16th of December 1947 to the 18th of August 2020. Known professionally as Ben Cross, Cross was born in London. After graduation from the RADA, Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts, Cross performed in several stage plays. In 1977, Cross became a member of the Royal Shakespeare Company, but in 1978 began his path to international stardom with his performance in the play Chicago, in which he played Billy Flynn, the sick lawyer of murderous Roxy Hart. Cross was in film and shows such as The Twilight Zone, 1986, in the episode The Devil's Alphabet as Frederick. The Exorcist: The Beginning in 2004 as Samiller. And Star Trek the movie that came out in 2009 as Sarek. Now that you know enough about him, let's talk about Ben Cross in 1991. Cross played one of the lead characters in Dark Shadows revival, Barnabas Collins, a 175-year-old vampire awoken by Willie and his drunken shambles for riches. Barnabas is in search of fresh blood and his lost love Josette. He was a member of the 18th century Collins family and was intended to marry Josette, but all this was lost when he became cursed to forever be a creature that haunts the past of Collinwood, as well as the governess, Victoria Winters. Joanna Catherine Going, born July 22, 1963. She was born in Washington, D.C., raised in Newport, Rhode Island, and graduated from Rogers High School in 1981 before studying at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. Joanna attended Emerson College for 2 years. Joanna appeared in soap opera roles in the late 1980s, most known for her role in Another World as Lisa Grady from 1987 to 1989.
I love you.
I know.
Joanna was in film and shows such as Still Breathing in 1997 as Rosalind Willoughby, Home Alone 4 in 2002 as Natty Caliban, Mad Men in 2013 as Arlene in episodes To Have and to Hold and The Better Half. But in 1991, Joanna played the young, beautiful governess Victoria Winters. Victoria Winters left her home in New York to come to Collinwood to be a governess for Elizabeth Collins' troubled nephew, David. Not feeling welcomed by David or Willie at her first arrival, she remained strong and pressed onward to be a good governess for David. Not long after she arrives, she meets a friendly man with charm and wit. She seems to be put into a trance. His name was Barnabas Collins. Barbara Steele, born 29th of December 1937. She was born in Birkenhead, Cheshire, England. She studied at the Chelsea Art School in London and in Paris at the Sorbonne or Sorbonne. The Sorbonne was a university of Paris that ended in 1970. It is now divided into 13 autonomous universities. Barbara started film very early on, most known for her main role in Black Sunday as Aza and Princess Katia Vahada. She was also in other great movies such as The Butterfly Room in 2012 as Anne. Ryan Gosling's film Lost River in 2014 as the grandmother, and voices Miranda in the anime Castlevania, an adult animated series based off a Japanese video game by the same name. It's about Count Dracula seeking revenge after his wife was burned alive for being accused of witchcraft. In 1991, Barbara played the clever and very curious Dr. Julia Hoffman. Dr. Hoffman moved to Collinwood and meets Barnabas and is fascinated and curious, so she begins to run tests on Barnabas, treating and attempting to heal him of his curse. She quickly becomes one of Barnabas's allies, trying all she can to help rid him of his nightly curse that has plagued the Collins family for centuries. Jim Fife, who has been a TV actor, a TV host, he's also been a writer, director, and even a producer. He was on the set of Dark Shadows in 1991. When he used to be an acting coach in Piermont, New York, he now works at Rockland County Day School in Conger, New York as a history teacher and administrator. He also began working alongside Stephen Colbert as a producer for the CBS show The Late Show for Stephen Colbert. Jim played the clumsy, drunk, and screw-up of the Collins family that was Willie Loomis. Willie knew of the rich Collins history and started studying it more till he came to a conclusion where some of the riches were buried. Willie decided there was treasure in the family tombs. So, on a late night, Willie went to the tombs and opened a stone coffin from the map he decoded. This was Barnabas's coffin, and Willie had awakened him. Willie then became Barnabas's keeper and his protector. Willie was made to keep Barnabas's secret and guard him so no one else could find out who Barnabas really was. Lizette Ann Chodzko, born the 26th of December in 1963. She was born in Marylebone, London, an only child of the actor Michael Adam Anthony and his wife Bernadette Milnes. Lizette left home when she was 19. She had a difficult childhood living with her mother, who was suffering from some severe mental illness. Lizette was a successful model before she became an actress. She was presaged as the face of the 80s by photographer David Bailey. Lizette was even in music videos before she broke through into acting, with artists such as Bryan Adams in Summer of '69, Somebody, Run to You, and Heaven, Depeche Mode, I Feel You, and Simian Mobile Disco, Cruel Intentions. Soon, Lizette started getting into film. She was in Look Who's Talking Now as Samantha in 1993, Dr. Jekyll and Miss Hyde as Sarah Carver in 1995, Dracula Dead and Loving It as Lucy in 1995. And speaking of vampires, Lizette had some time prior to get familiar with them. In 1991, Lizette was the tempting witch in Collinwood as Angelique Picard. Angelique was in love with Barnabas, but Barnabas was not. He was in love with another woman. When he broke off the affair, Angelique decided to put a curse on Barnabas, a curse that would forever plague him and his family for all eternity. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, born 17th of February, 1981. Joseph was born in Los Angeles, California, raised in Sherman Oaks, and graduated from the Van Nuys High School in 1999. Joseph started acting when he joined a musical theater group as a young kid. Then he started doing TV commercials soon after. Joseph's career started to take off in his early years, doing quite a few made-for-television films, one being Gregory Kingsley in Switching Parents, a movie based on a true story of Gregory Kingsley, who legally divorced his parents after years of abuse. He played Roger Bowman in the hit Disney film Angels in the Outfield in 1994. Joseph continued to be in movies, and he has been in so many great ones. He's been in 500 Days of Summer as Tom Hansen in 2009, 50-50 as Adam Lerner in 2011, alongside Seth Rogen and Anna Kendrick. The Dark Knight Rises as John Blake in 2012. Really, the list goes on and on. He was even in shows we all grew to know and love, like That 70s Show as Buddy Morgan in 1998. There was one specific show he had a lead role in that I believe benefited his shoot to stardom. In 1991, Joseph played David Collins, the young boy in Collinwood that Victoria Winters has come to teach and help take care of. David moved to Collinwood to live with his Aunt Elizabeth and cousin Carolyn. Not long after, Elizabeth hires Victoria. David is a troubled boy who thinks that Victoria is there to replace his mother. He rebels. He was supposed to be the main focus of Victoria's time and attention, at least until another started to draw her away. In the 70s, Victoria Winters has arrived in Collinwood to be a governess for the 10-year-old David Collins. Roger Collins doesn't trust her, but his sister Elizabeth Collins does, who's just so happened to be the one who hired Victoria. David isn't thrilled, and being a really troubled young boy, tries to scare and run Victoria out of town. Victoria stays strong, and she doesn't budge, and continues to be the best she can be for the family. The groundskeeper, Willie Loomis, who is the nephew of the housekeeper, Miss Johnson, is convinced that the Collins family legend has buried treasure. He breaks into the family crypt and awakens Barnabas from his tomb. He introduces himself, Barnabas that is, as a lost relative from England, and entranced, becomes to try and pursue Victoria. Daphne Collins is the first victim of Barnabas. He drains her of her blood and now walks as a vampire in Collinwood. Daphne tries to attack David, but succeeds in attacking her love, Joe Haskell. Daphne does get stopped by Professor Michael Woodard and Sheriff Patterson. Meanwhile, Dr. Julia Hoffman discovers Barnabas' secret when she notices he doesn't cast a reflection in a mirror. Roger Collins is also having an affair. Dr. Hoffman begins to experiment on Barnabas, trying to cure him. Barnabas becomes a prime suspect for the attacks, but Julia Hoffman will do anything to protect him from being convicted. Victoria begins to fall for Barnabas. Where Barnabas is feeling the same, he is also feeling guilt from his past love, Josette. Later, a ghost from the past comes to David and tells him that there is evil amongst them. Professor Woodard calls for Julia and Sheriff Patterson. When they find him, they discover that he is now a vampire. Julia continues to treat Barnabas, with little but still some success. Barnabas is able to show reflection and walk minimally in sunlight. Now, the same ghost who appeared to David appears to Victoria. She leads her to a diary. The diary belongs to Sarah Collins, while another even begins to manifest in Collinwood. Dr. Hoffman starts to see the affection Barnabas has for Victoria, and she begins to get jealous. Her jealousy leads her to start sabotaging the work that her and Barnabas have started to accomplish. And Maggie has a vision of Barnabas attacking Carolyn. Barnabas bites Carolyn, despite Willie trying to prevent it. Barnabas, now with Carolyn under his spell, she is hypnotized, and he convinces her to try to kill Julia. When Elizabeth throws a costume party, Barnabas avoids Victoria, but pursues the revenge she has for Dr. Hoffman. Soon, Julia Hoffman notices Carolyn's intentions and confronts Barnabas. After Barnabas is confronted, he goes and he attacks Julia. But the ghost of Sarah appears again, stopping him. Maggie suggests a seance to help the Collins family by contacting Sarah. But during this, Victoria disappears, and another person has her replaced. Victoria appears in the year 1790, still in Collinwood, all the residents resembling the current ones from the 70s in appearance. Despite everyone very skeptical of her, she becomes the tutor for Daniel and Sarah Collins. She also makes a friend and ally, Peter Bradford, as well as the young Barnabas, who is awaiting arrival of his fiancée Josette. The maid, Angelique, is still determined to keep Barnabas for her own. Angelique is a witch and makes Ben Collins her slave, but Victoria is suspected to be the witch by Abigail Collins. Angelique puts a spell on Josette to fall in love with Jeremiah Collins. Victoria and Josette are both overcome with the resemblance in appearance to each other. When Barnabas discovers that Josette and Jeremiah have plans to elope, he pursues Jeremiah. Then a back-to-back gun duel is derived, and Angelique puts a curse on the duel to ensure Barnabas kills Jeremiah. Josette, still under the spell that Angelique had placed upon her, accuses Barnabas of killing her one true love. Abigail, still convinced Victoria is the witch, has her jailed by Reverend Trask. Angelique then raises Jeremiah from the dead to try and kill Josette. Barnabas finally discovers Angelique to be the real witch and kills her. Unfortunately, not fast enough, before she curses him to forever be a vampire, to feed on human blood for all eternity. Back in the 70s, they are trying to take care of the woman that replaced Victoria, Desperate, Maggie holds another seance to reach Victoria, but instead, Dr. Hoffman becomes possessed by Angelique's ghost. Victoria is still in desperate need to prove her innocence, but that night, Barnabas makes his first attack. He rises as a vampire, and he makes Millicent his first victim. Victoria is suspected to be responsible for the attack. Victoria's trial begins, and Reverend Task is the prosecutor. Playing to the fears of the community, he also uses Abigail to testify against Victoria. People testify in favor, but Angelique shows up as her ghost, and she says Victoria was the real witch. Barnabas seeks to make Josette his vampire bride, but Angelique sends her visions of the horror her life could become if she decides to become a bloodthirsty creature of the night. Joe attempts to put a stake through Barnabas's heart in his coffin, but the possessed Julia kills Joe, and Willie witnesses this whole thing before his eyes. Barnabas reveals himself to his mother back in the 1790s, and Abigail arrives too. When she does, he attacks her. Sarah sees Barnabas attacking Abigail, and he kills her. She screams and she flees to the woods. Lost and scared in the woods, her and Daniel get sick. Victoria finally realizes that Barnabas is a vampire, and that Angelique had cursed him over jealousy, and that Angelique is also responsible for the reason she is lost in the 1790s. Barnabas attacks Reverend Trask, and after he has been, bury him alive in his crypt and coffin. In the 70s, Maggie tries to perform an exorcism on Julia, but instead ends up being possessed herself by Angelique now. Victoria is about to be hung for witchcraft, but her replacement is killed by Maggie back in the 70s, which then switches her back to the 70s with the old lady replacing her. Victoria knows about Barnabas, and Barnabas realizes that she is aware of his secret. Thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoyed yourself while you were here. Please like and subscribe and hit that bell so you'll get notifications next time we post a new video. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. I'll post links in the description. You never know, but there's a lot of fun to be had here, so come and join us again when we talk about some more trash TV.